Hello everyone. Today I wanted to go through some non-travel watercolor brushes and see what kind of marks we can make with them and see what kind of wells they fit in, because I haven't done that for a lot of these brushes. I'm not going to keep this Lazy Susan brush holder in the frame for much longer because it's a little bit big and I don't want it to be blocking your view of what I'm doing. So I'm going to put those off to the side. And then I'll just go through them one by one. I probably won't show you all of those watercolor brushes, but just a selection. There's actually one or two that I've never used before, so I would like to test those out for sure. And I don't know about you all, but I've definitely been feeling more down this week. I think that social distancing is starting to get to me, and I just kind of want it to all be over. I mean, I understand the reasoning behind it not being over, and actually I don't want it to end sooner than it needs to keep everyone safe. But I'm just getting a little restless, and I haven't been doing a lot of art actually. I would have thought that I would have been very inspired and to have some, actually I don't have all that much more spare time, but just being at home more I would think would make me a little bit more creative, but it really hasn't. So today I just kind of wanted to play with some color and have some fun with that, and hopefully that'll lift my mood and hopefully lift your all's mood as well. Okay, so I have a couple of watercolor palettes here. This one you've already seen. This one is one that I showed in my video about about homemade watercolor palettes, and I'll put a link to that video below. This is the one that I made with a business card holder, and it has a few different sizes of pans in here. And then this one I don't believe I've shown you before. This one, I think the company name is Nature Sketches on Etsy, but I'll confirm that and I'll put a link to them down below. And they don't always have these palettes available, but I'll still link them. So this is a handmade wooden palette, and I won't turn it over too much. It just says handcrafted on the back and then the person's name who made it. And I think this is walnut. And one issue if I shake it around is that these have dried out, so they will fall out of these little pans. But part of the reason why I wanted to include this one today is because I have some bigger pans. These are the kinds of pans that come with the Expeditionary Arts palettes. They're little metal pans, and they come in these variety of sizes. This square size is essentially the equivalent of a half pan, and then I think these would be the equivalent of a quarter pan. So, and I don't have the super small ones in here, but they do have super small ones. So I will probably not show this one in another video just because I'm going to go through some of the colors today. But if you would like to know more about that, just let me know. Just ask me some questions and I'll let you know. But otherwise, I'll just put a link below. So let's see. So the first one that I'm going to use is this Princeton Stroke 1/4 inch, and this is from the Aqua Elite collection. I have some water here off camera, and let's see, I haven't wet these, but most of these are pretty easily re-wet. So let's see. Okay, maybe I spoke too soon. Okay, so let's see. So this one, you can get a pretty wide stroke. Let's see, pretty thin stroke. And I'm usually not a huge fan. Oh, yellow was probably not the best color choice. Let's go with something darker. I'm usually not a huge fan of square brushes or flat brushes like this, but sometimes you can get some pretty neat effects with them. All right. Well, that wasn't very interesting, was it? Let's see. So here I have a Pro Art Master Stroke Medium Series 651 Dagger. So for a while there, I was trying out a bunch of different Dagger brushes because Dagger brushes do tend to be, I really do need to wet these. Let's see. Do tend to be pretty versatile. I mean, you can use them for a lot of things. Like here you can see you can get a pretty broad stroke. can get a pretty thin line. You can vary it. And they're really good for getting texture, whether they're wet or dry. And I think this brush doesn't really hold water all that well. And you can even do a wash. Okay. Get a little more color there. And you can, so you can kind of mimic a pointed brush by just doing the edge. Okay. Let's see what else we've got here. So I haven't used these very much. These are mop brushes by Isabey, and I have a few different sizes. This is the smallest. I'm gonna saturate the brush a little bit because I think that was part of the problem before. Okay, let's see. So I would think that, oh, looks like we have a little strand coming out there. So I think this would be a good choice for a wash. Let's see, I'm getting a little more pigment on there. Although I suppose you could draw. You could draw pretty small here. I'm gonna get one of the bigger ones and try those. So this is the middle size. This is a size 8. These hold a ton of water. Yeah, you're gonna get a pretty good, but let's see. Oh, you can also get pretty small strokes as well. And this isn't like super duper soft, so you could, okay. Now I'm gonna try the incredibly large one. Make sure that one's clean. And get all that water out of there, at least sop it up a little bit. I also have a paper towel off camera here. And then this one is a size 10 of the same. And I don't tend to paint very big very often, so I haven't used these very much. I'm usually using smaller brushes. Oh, you actually can get pretty small line with the tip there. Not bad. Okay, again, I'm going to make sure that is clean because sometimes color will get stuck up in there. And another brush that I have that's sort of an interesting one that I have not tried yet is this Rosemary & Company triangular brush. So let's try it. Let me get it wet because it still has the manufacturing coating on it. Okay, and when it's wet, it still has that sort of triangular shape. Let's try this palette. Let me use one of these greens in here. Okay, let's see. So I'm going to use sort of the wider edge and see. Oh, you can get a pretty wide line. Okay, what about the tip here? Oh, you can get a super fine line. Okay, and let's see. Let's see if I turn it over. Oh, yeah. And then you probably could use this for petals as well because of that triangular shape. I'm actually going to wet that a little bit more and dip back into that same color. Let's see. All right. Yeah, that's kind of neat. I like that. Oh, you could probably get leaves just with that. Yeah, that's cool. So you've already got sort of a leaf shape. Because it fans out here on the side as well. Okay. Yeah, that's a pretty versatile brush. I saw this on the Rosemary website. I think they had a video about this one, and I thought it was really interesting because I had never seen them before. But yeah, it seems like you can get a lot of interesting shapes. I'll probably play with that more on my own. And I'm not sure what that one is made out of. I'm just going to shape the brush so it dries in the original shape. All right, let's see. Here's another. This is a Jackson's Company Silver Line brush. Actually, let me let me move on to another page here. I apologize for the clearing of the throat. I think I just finished eating lunch, so that seems to always create that issue. Okay, and again, I'm going to go into one of these greens because it's in a wider spot here. Let's see. This color is green gold. This is Da Vinci's green gold. Oh yeah, you can get a really nice, and then you can get a really straight line. And let's see if I turn it over. Yeah, you've got a lot of flexibility there. This is actually a pretty good brush. I like this. Okay, let's see, what other kinds of interesting brushes can I show you? So this one I haven't really used either. This is a extended point series from Rosemary and Company. So it's really supposed to be a fine liner, but you can hold more water back here because it has that little extra bit of brush there to hold water. Okay, here's what it looks like sopping wet. All right, I am going to, let's see, I'm going to go into one of these smaller pans. This is Schmincke Madder Brown. Okay, let's see. Because I think the idea is you can do a really, 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 really long line because you have more water. Okay, and that's about the extent of that. And I suppose you could do some interesting effects if you're going to roll it around or something like that. But I think this really shines with doing lines like that. Let's see. Oh, I have another. Okay, so this is a Rosemary and Company Dagger brush. So let's see how that compares to the others here. I can already tell that this is going to hold a lot more water than the other two. Here it is wet. Okay, and I'm going to go into one of these bigger ones. This is Payne's Gray. Okay. Oh, lovely. Yeah, it holds a lot of water. You're going to get really good available strokes there. Okay, let's see. Does a line really, really nice. Then you go to the other side and it's more like around. Okay, put a little bit more color on there. And then if you do sort of a dry brush technique, you can get maybe grass or texture of a wave. Yeah, that's a good brush. And I'm kind of staying away from the brushes I used most often, just because I kind of know how they work, but maybe I should go through some of those. This one I've definitely used a few times. This is an Escoda number 12 synthetic. It's in the Barocco line, and this is it's a square. It's a bright, I suppose you would say, but it is curved a little bit at the end, if you can see that. So it's almost like a filbert. So this is really nice because it does have sort of a stiff hold. Oops, definitely needs more water there. And more pigment probably. Okay, because you can really control it, which is kind of why I like this one. But you're going to be, and when you've got sort of a dry brush here, dry brush technique, you're going to have a lot more control because this one's a little bit more stiff. And part of that's probably because it's synthetic. Ooh, and of course, because I loaded that up, the color is really sticking in there. I think so far my favorite is the Rosemary Dagger brush for sure. And I have some cheaper, larger brushes in here. This is just a Princeton Round Snap number 20. These are really nice. I like these for florals. Let's see, let's go into a red so we could do something like that. So like if you wanted to do sort of a, oh, that's probably way too much pigment for that kind of thing. Put some more water in there. So if you wanted to do something where you're doing like a floral design, here's all these different petals, for example. You can get sort of a sumi brush-like quality to your line. But you can still get, yeah, this brush holds a lot. You can still get a pretty good line with it as well. So let's go in with a green. And then if you wanted to, let's see, if we wanted to do a little bit of blending there at the top. I kind of drew that over the top of other things, so it's a little bit more difficult to discern there. But that one's pretty good for large brush strokey florals. And then I have an even bigger one, an even bigger synthetic. Oh, I think that one still had color in it. Hang on a second. Really need to make sure you get all that pigment out of them so that it doesn't stay in the brush. If for no other reason, the next time you use it, you might, you'll be like, uh-oh, I have a weird color in here. So then this is an Escoda 22 Perla. And this one's a little stiffer than that last one. So you can get some really interesting brush strokes. So let's see. Let's do blue. So this one's going to be a little harder to get in there into the tiny little palette because it's so big. But let's see if we were to do sort of another brushy flower over here. Again, I probably need more space than what I have in this little area here. So, and then you... But again, you can get a pretty small line there. Take some of the water out of the brush. I'm going to add a darker blue. And see, and then you could kind of develop your flower from there. These are kind of abstract-y flowers here. All right, so let's see. And so I have a flat wash snap 1 inch. I don't really use these very much because they're generally for washes and I'm using other brushes for that. I'm not going to show you this one today, but I am going to show you. So this is a Princeton Glacier oval wash. So just so you can see how an oval wash brush looks a little different. I'm going to go into one of these bigger pans here so I can get pigment. Oh, still don't have enough water in there. And this one's a pretty dry brush, like it goes on pretty dry. But you can see there's like a rounded start to that brush stroke as opposed to a squarish thing that we got with the Dagger, or you'd get with another square flat wash brush. Okay, and let's try this little guy with what little room we have. So this is a Kolinsky Sable Rosemary and Company number 6. Oh, I've forgotten the name of this kind of brush because it's very short. A lot of rounds tend to be much longer than that. Let's go. You get a lot more control with this. And so, like here, if you wanted to do some florals. Doesn't hold a lot of water though because of the smallness of the brush. So say you wanted to do some overlapping petals there. So we're kind of getting a side view of that flower. And then go in and get some green. Oh, that was a little bit of a fat line. I probably should have done that a little smaller. Let's see, I'm going to make up for that by making it look like sort of a blade of grass there. Because you can get it pretty small line. Okay. Let's see, I'm going to go into another color here and just see what a line looks like with that one. It's harder for me to keep a straight line. It's a little more squiggly. And it's also harder for me to keep it small. Okay. All right, I'm going to see if there's any more interesting brushes to show you. If not, I'm just going to show you one last brush. And we probably should go on to a new page. I'm just going to turn it. It's obviously going to stick to the last page because it is a little wet. So this is a brush from the International Watercolor Society, Ocean Eye. This I got off of an Etsy site. Sorry, this tends to be pretty tight, so you have to loosen that to go down here. Okay. There we go. And I'm just going to take that off entirely. This is a little cap. So I got this from Pfeiffer Art Supply on Etsy. And this is a really nice brush. I've been really impressed with it. And it doesn't stain. As you can see, I've used it quite a bit and it doesn't stain. It holds a ton of water. And here, let's try and do one last floral here. So I will... Sorry about that. So I will go into some different reds here. Reds and oranges. Let's have some darker colors coming up here. And I'm just kind of making up a flower, so I'm not quite sure what kind of flower this is, but it can be anything. Okay, let's go with olive green over here to kind of touch to the bottom. So you can get a really nice small line. I'm going to go into a different green. It's a little bluey. go with a bigger leaf down here on the bottom. Add some different color in there. Down. And if you wanted to show some grass down here on the bottom, that would be really easy to do with this. And there you go. So this is a great brush. I don't think that Pfeiffer Art Supply has these all the time, and they're a little bit pricey, but you can get so many different strokes with this. You can get a really fine line, you can get larger swoopy lines. It's just really versatile. And let's see, there's another red up here, so I am going to add that a little bit here. Get some more color. All right, and I think we're done. And before we go, I do want to show you a couple of other things that are not technically brushes, but are in my little roundabout here. I'm going to put that over the brush. Oops, that actually goes the other way. So it does get pretty tight, but you put it up over the brush tip like that. And then it kind of protects it when you're storing it, which is really cool. And you could hang it from something with the loop at the back. So these next two, these are both by Rosemary and Company, and this one is a rubber tip soft, and then this is a rubber tip firm. And these are for masking fluid. So you dip them in the masking fluid, and I can do a whole separate video on masking fluid, which I think I probably should. So masking fluid basically means it's a sticky substance that you put down on the page, and then when you watercolor over it, it preserves the white where you've put it, and then you rub it off after everything's dry. So you would take this really saves your brushes, because often you'd put that on with brushes, but you can use this, dip it into the masking fluid, draw it on here if you want a really fine flexible line. The hard ones would be better for a very controlled line. So these are pretty cool. I really like those. And then I also have a scrubber in here, if I can find it. I actually have a couple of different ones. So this is Cheap Joe's Fritsch Scrubber. So basically, if you wanted to get rid of something that you painted, and this is a small Rosemary and Company eradicator. This is actually a very short brush, and this has really, I mean, it's a brush, but it's super abrasive, I would say, compared to this one. So let's see the difference. So if I put the really abrasive one in here, and let's say I wanted to get rid of this edge or kind of clean up this edge. So I don't know if you can see, but it is actually taking up that edge. The problem is this one, because it's super, and here I'll get the tissue to wipe that off. See? And because this one is super hard, you'll probably end up taking some of the paper with it. So this one's a little more gentle, this one by Rosemary and Company. So I'm going to put it in the water a little bit. And let's say I wanted to get rid of this whole little blade of grass here. I'm just going to rub and dab, rub, dab. So see, that worked pretty well. It probably won't work as well with a color that's more staining, but with that one, I mean, you can barely see it on the paper now. I'd probably go back in a few more times just to make sure. But there you go. Okay, And then the other brushes I have in here are mostly just, you know, standard rounds and flats and things that you all have probably seen before. You might see me using some of these again. But that's it for today, I think. And I hope you enjoyed that little fun doodling with different brush time. And I'll see you next time. Feel free to like and or subscribe, and have a great day, everyone. All right, bye-bye.